There is a clock ticking right now inside the Jefferson Health Training Complex, and it could define one of the most emotional decisions the Eagles will make this year of 2026, my friend. Howie Roseman has about 2 weeks, maybe even less, to answer a question that isn't about money, isn't about salary cap space, and isn't about cold roster strategy. It's a question about loyalty, about respect, about the way an organization treats a legend who gave 16 full years of his life for this jersey. And the most striking detail of all is this: the Eagles might not even need this player to win. That's exactly where the story gets interesting. If you're a die-hard Eagles fan, hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel, because this saga has a real deadline knocking at the door, and the Philadelphia front office is going to be forced to make its move before July 28th, when the team reports. It's the kind of decision that separates an organization that only thinks about results from an organization that understands the weight of jersey, history, and locker room. And when you find out who the man at the center of all this is, you'll see instantly why this is no ordinary choice. Let's set the scene. The Eagles' offense has been reshaped. The defensive line was stacked with talent this offseason, and the front office believes it has assembled one of the most complete rosters in all of the NFL for the coming season. On paper, there simply isn't any room. The team has already filled all 90 roster spots, still holds the international player exemption, locking in UR Bernard as number 91. And the pass rusher position is so crowded that it's hard to imagine one more name squeezing into that line. But there's a 38-year-old veteran, the player who has been with this franchise longer than anyone else in the entire history of the club, who hasn't announced his retirement, who wants to come back, and who made perhaps the most decisive play of all time in this uniform. His name is Brandon Graham. And this is where the whole dilemma lives. How do you say no to Brandon Graham? How do you look into the eyes of the guy who delivered that strip sack on Tom Brady in Super Bowl 52, the play that basically put the first Vince Lombardi trophy in the city of Philadelphia, and tell him there's no roster spot for him? Do you understand the size of this problem? It's not a football problem. It's a problem of the heart. And Graham himself made everything more delicate when he said publicly that 2026 is it, that this is probably the last dance. He doesn't want to come in halfway through the season the way he did last year. He wants to start from the beginning, with the group, or else end his career for good. Now let's talk about the practical side, because it also works in his favor. The big advantage of bringing Graham back is that he doesn't need to play much. The pass rush rotation is already covered with Jonathan Greenard, who arrived as the top edge man and earned a heavy contract extension, plus Arnold Ebiketie, who signed for 1 season, and AJ Epinesa, added at the end of minicamp after being a solid rotational piece over in Buffalo. Add Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt, who were already in the building. That's 5-6 names fighting for reps. So what exactly would Graham's role be? Small. And that's precisely why he fits. Do you remember what happened last season? The Eagles used Graham in a creative way. Because of his presence against the run, the team started lining him up inside as a defensive tackle, and he found success there. He wasn't a washed-up veteran waiting for retirement. He was a player who opened up a brand new function at 37, 38 years of age. He played 10 or fewer snaps in 7 of the 9 regular season games he appeared in, which is to say an absolutely controlled, surgical role with no wear and tear. And that's more or less the same role he'd have in 2026. 6th pass rusher, and an extra defensive tackle in the rotation with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and Moro Ojomo. So answer me one thing. Why not? It wouldn't be a wasted roster spot. It would be real depth at 2 positions that are already strong. It's insurance against injury, insurance against a drop in performance, insurance against any surprise the long NFL season always brings. How many times has a team reached November praying for one more reliable body on the defensive line? Graham is that body. And on top of it all, he's a body that has bled green for an entire lifetime. But the depth part, as important as it is, isn't even the strongest argument. The strongest argument is invisible on the stat sheet. It's leadership. Brandon Graham is one of the greatest leaders in Eagles history, the kind of figure who changes the energy of a room the instant he walks into it. Over the past few years, his presence in the locker room has become part of that group's identity. He speaks up for the younger players, serves as a mentor for the entire defensive line, plays a role no scouting spreadsheet can ever measure. Jordan Davis, who is also a leader in that room, always speaks about Graham with admiration. Jalen Carter and Moro Ojomo like having their lockers close to his. That's not a small detail, that's culture. And there's an even more specific point. Graham has been a mentor to Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt over the years, precisely the young edge players who now need to take the next step. After the offseason, Nolan Smith having Graham around to guide him, push him, and support him could make an enormous difference in that kid's development. Can you put a price on that? I can't. And that's why, even if Graham isn't technically on the 53-man roster, it's almost certain he'll be around in some capacity. Keeping a legend like that in the environment never hurts anyone. Now, to be fair and transparent, there is the other side. The side the front office itself needs to see. The Eagles have a football team to think about first, and sentiment and roster planning don't always go hand in hand. Graham will turn 38. His numbers on last year's return were modest. 3 sacks and 8 tackles in 9 games, and the defensive line is genuinely full of young talent. There's a scenario in which there simply is no physical room on the roster, and forcing that spot would mean cutting a younger player with more room to grow. That's a real calculation Roseman has to make. You can't romanticize everything. But here comes the question that gives this whole story its title. Shouldn't the Eagles bring Graham back even if they don't need him? Because there's a value that goes beyond football. Graham is the player who has been with this franchise the longest, owner of 215 regular season games, third leading sacker in club history, behind only 2 monsters like Reggie White and Trent Cole. He was the very first draft pick of Howie Roseman's career, back in 2010. He went from being labeled a first-round bust to becoming a Super Bowl hero, and, in the end, an absolute legend. Doesn't a man like that deserve to have someone other than himself decide the end of his story? That's the real question. Should the Eagles have a deadline? Of course they should. Deadlines organize decision-making and keep a saga from dragging on into September. But within that deadline, the team needs to honor Graham's wishes. If he knocks on the door and says he wants to be there when the roster reports on July 28th, the front office should secure the contract and take care of him. If he'd rather wait another week or two, take that time with his kids, play his golf, enjoy the moment, the team should respect that too. He has earned that right. The right to retire when he wants, and not when a spreadsheet decides. So the question I'll leave you with is this. Taking into account that the defensive line is already full, that Graham will turn 38, and that forcing that spot could cost a younger player, is it still worth bringing the greatest living legend in the locker room back for one last season? Or has the moment arrived to let the story end with dignity, off the field? Leave your opinion here in the comments. I really want to know what you think. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back later to update you with the latest Eagles news.